Okay. Hello, Lana.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to take part in this mini interview after being part of our Aspire program for it seems quite a few years now. Um, it's just incredible to have you ongoing as part of the program. You love it so much, you keep coming back.
I do keep coming back, but it's coming back for the right reasons, not the wrong ones.
It's been amazing to see almost like you, when you first joined the program, you were thinking of a variety of options of, what you could possibly do and scoping out lots of variations of the kind of business that you would do. And now you seem to have settled into the right business for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I first sort of came to Aspire, I'd moved out of what was previously an academic employed role through redundancy, and had retrained in holistic therapies and coaching, and had kind of gone down the route of going to a number of events and fairs and doing primarily holistic therapy treatments. But I also was sort of there was a mismatch between me wanting to sort of stay in coaching but also bring in holistic therapies, and I couldn't quite get my head around what it was I was doing. And so my focus was probably very much a kind of feast famine model of going off and doing lots of events and everything going great at those events, but then coming back and finding that my business wasn't really functioning in a sustainable and consistent way. So coming into Aspire just gave me the opportunity to really look at what and actually identified that I was in this feast famine model of business, which is not great. But then start looking into how I move away from that and actually get a very sustainable, consistent model. And in doing so, kind of being able to refine my understanding of what my business actually was.
I know a lot of women get, in some ways, lost in their heads with their business ideas. And we talk about, becoming conscious with your idea, because a lot of women just are fearful of putting down in writing what their thoughts are in a robust plan. And I can remember, you've heard me work with lots of women where I say, where's your ideas? And they say, well, they're in my head. And I said, well, that's where your hair's growing from and all the other stuff is happening. Don't you think it's time you put it down on paper? And then it's almost like magic happens when people start putting those ideas, aspirations, dreams, whatever you might call them, down on paper, and then start testing out those assumptions. Because again, you've been part of a group of women where some women put them down on paper and they then think, I can't make any money out of this. And you think to yourself, well, you saved a fortune then. Or whatever they're putting down on paper, how can we make more money from it? Yeah. So what has been your experience of that, where you've actually started to get real with your numbers? Because I know you were quite fearful of numbers to start with. And not only did you tackle the numbers, but you really looked at your whole customer journey and refined that whole process. So I'd love you to share that. What did you do there? What kind of impact has it had on your business?
Oh, it's had a huge impact. I mean, I think I kind of went from a job, a great job, but a job where I was employed, and I didn't have to think about sales and sales funnels and marketing and any of that. And so kind of when I started up my business, I just thought, set up and they'll all come. How naive is that? But at the time it was like, yeah, but everybody knows what I do, so they'll come. And I thought that was kind of quite a passive thing, that you just sat there and people would come to you, not realizing that actually you need to get out there and start making waves and start getting people to know what you do to start with, before they can even decide whether or not what you offer and your offering is of value to them in a way that they then want to come and buy from you. And then you're right, one of my biggest setbacks, if you like, was and this kind of came out very, very acutely during the Aspire program, was I had a huge childhood issue around maths and numbers, because I was that child that just didn't get maths. I just didn't understand it. It was totally different language, and my childhood experiences around trying to understand how maths worked was just not great. So I was actually one of those people that when a spreadsheet was put in front of me, I'd burst into tears because it was that painful. And so, you know, the first sweep of doing the Aspire program was like, no, can't touch this. And also, but having a kind of idea that, you know, maybe I needed to know my numbers in order to understand, you know, what my product pricing would be, how many I'd have to sell, you know, what my survival income might look like. And so over the time of having that opportunity to really understand myself in terms of where was the fear located and how do I release that fear, and also recognize finally that a spreadsheet and maths are two actually very, very different things. And there's no need to be fearful of a spreadsheet, and there's no need to be fearful of numbers. It was just literally a process in order to understand what you could receive in the future. So that was a massive turning point for me, because then it moved me from this sort of feast famine model to actually thinking, I have more control about how I run my business than I thought I did. So I'm no longer sort of and seeing, you know, whether the wind's working in my direction. I was actually then focusing on, here's a tool that will help me get from A to B in a pretty consistent way, and enables me to take account of different influences that might impact on my business, but charts me a path that I can walk through and get momentum and traction on. And that was massive, because the moment that, you know, you and I sat down and did my survival income and did my cash flow forecast, it was like, oh my God, not only can I do this, but now I know how I can get this business up and really going for it and functioning in an incredibly consistent way, rather than sitting there going, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills next month? Because, you know, it's great while you're out on events and lots of people are coming to you and having your services. But then what happens when you're not at those events? It's like, oh, so it's a massive, you know, and maybe I'm just a slow learner, but, you know, it was a massive thing for me to move from this feast famine model into a consistent model where I also learned my product, and I understood that it wasn't about the process, it was about how my product was going to serve other people in a way that I felt good, they felt good, and that, you know, they could see the value of what I was able to offer. So then, as you know, that led me into, what does this customer journey look like? And that's just been fascinating. It's pulled in all sorts of things from Aspire, the Aspire program, looking at marketing, looking at the journey that a customer makes, through from awareness right through to aftercare support and service. And that's been massive, because now you're kind of almost, you know, I think it's like playing with Lego then, because you know what the blocks are and you're just putting them in the right configuration that works best for your customer. We spend a lot of time in Aspire learning about how to identify what your client needs are, how to, you know, go and look in the market, how to do research, how to, and I think things like pest and SWOTs, where might be seen as quite traditional, when you've got it from the perspective of, how do I make this work for my particular business? How do I make it bespoke to my business? It means that you're moving away from these, if you like, traditional models of a business plan or operational plan, and it becomes a personal journey for your business growth, and that your business is an extension of you. And so that's been huge for me.
We've also seen, you know, looking at this backdrop of a caterpillar transforming themselves into a butterfly, and the process in between, where you see somebody is almost like a blob on the floor. It's recognizing, women come into Aspire and they do almost in some ways have to go through their own eye in the needle in order to break through and let go of the past and, develop those amazing butterfly wings and fly. What were your experiences of dealing with all that personal stuff, really, that perhaps was holding you back? It could have been a thinking sabotage based on experience, but what was your experience of almost like letting go of that stuff in order to take these wings and fly?
I think what was really interesting about mine was I hadn't realised how much I'd kind of moved into an arrested state of development when I got diagnosed with leukemia. I thought I dealt with it. I thought I'd worked through my own emotional stuff around that. And it wasn't really until I kind of had to really look at it and face it and say, okay, what is it about this diagnosis that's held me back? And I think the biggest aspect for me was, a passing comment from a GP, which was, if you don't do anything about it, you've got about 5 years. And my mindset moved into, well, if I've only got 5 years, what's the point? And actually it was a very damaging, although, no disrespect to the GP, because I don't think it was ever intended to be given, but I'd received it that way. But then that put me into a kind of state of, well, I've got this business, it's a bit of a feast or famine, but you know what, I'm probably not going to be here anyway, so it doesn't matter. And it sounds quite blasé when I say it, but actually I had to go through quite a painful process of revisiting what that actually meant and making a decision. Did I want to, if, touch wood, I'm perfectly fine. I've got great consultant and everything's going perfectly. But I think what it showed me is that I could either stay in apathy, which is where I was, and think, I've only got a couple of years, so let's just potter around. Or I could look at it and say, do you know what? I've got a couple of years. Why aren't I leaving a legacy? Why am I not leaving a legacy for my son? Why am I not seeing this as important enough that I have a part to play in my community and with other women? Why is it that, the people that are attracted to me and my business are women who are, in overwhelm, in stress, in anxiety, maybe not necessarily having a chronic health condition, but often come to me because that's not their primary focus, but it's as an aside, because most of the people that work with me are people who have experienced incredibly high levels of stress and anxiety. Now, I needed to be there for them as much as myself. So I had to find my own way of being and my own inner voice and actually say, no, this is more important. We're all going to die. Yeah, I think that's where I got to, was we're all going to die, but I get to choose what I want to leave behind. And it sounds a bit of a morbid discussion where we've got to here, but it's absolutely not, because it's a great celebration that my mindset moved from apathy and thinking, to, do you know what? No, going for it. Let's get out there and start living again rather than existing. And let's get out there and start helping people who are actually, people have all sorts of pain in their lives, and yet they still find a way through and they still find a way to succeed. So why am I sitting here going, when actually I could be going, yay? And so I chose that, yay. And Aspire helped with that process, because I had to look at, yes, I'd done a great deal of reflection and healing, but sometimes you get so close to your own block, you don't see it anymore. And having the opportunity to be in a group with other like-minded women, each of whom have got their own individual obstacles to have to work through, was amazing, because being able to hear their stories and thinking, hang on, it's not just me, and I think, when you're working on your own and you're self-employed and a lot of your time is spent running your business in the way that you know best at the time, you often don't have that network of other women surrounding you where you can bounce ideas off and talk to and work out whether what you're experiencing is just magnified because it's only you, yourself, and you having your meetings with yourself, or whether actually it's part of the nature and fabric of life, and therefore it's not such a biggie, and you can have these conversations with other women and realize that they're obstacles that they might be experiencing, you might have sailed over and have got some really great advice and wisdom for them to help them through their obstacle. In the same way, there were a great number of women that I was able to listen to and learn from to get through my obstacle. At the end of the day, I still had to do it for myself, but knowing that there were women there that had had similar or even worse experiences than I'd had was a huge support, because it gave me the strength to think, do you know what? I can do this. So there was a massive level of support in moving forward in a way that you just don't get when you're plodding along on your own.
So you mentioned there about the importance of this being a live, interactive process where women really get a lot out of supporting one another and just seeing each other's journeys and appreciating each other's journeys. How did it feel to you to have almost like an accountability partner that was going to make sure whatever you said you were going to do, you got done?
I loved it. And I tell you why, is because when I used to work in academic, I was Miss Control Freak, you know, at my backside with what I had to do on my to-do list and by when and how and da 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 da. And when I kind of came away from that and moved into my own business, I then thought, oh, I'll just do it however. And I kind of moved from this Attila the Hun approach to this Bob Dylan approach. And actually neither worked terribly well. So what it enabled me to do was having an accountability partner stopped me from going, oh no, I'll just go and look over there and see, because that looks really exciting. I just want to go and find about Google Ads. And no, you've still got your customer journey to finish. Because I just want to go and do that. No, you've got to come back here. So pulling me back was actually, as much as I kind of thought, oh, was really, really good, because what it reminded me of was the success you get when you take it step by step in a consistent way. You know, it's not new news. All the great entrepreneurs, all the great personal development coaches and gurus and everything will all tell you it's 99% perspiration, 1% genius, or 1%, you know, it's the effort you have to put in behind the scenes. And if you fly off onto different things, you get a lot of stuff, but you don't get anything done. And the one thing I'd learned here is, if I really was serious about getting this business consistent and moving forward and growing, I needed to stop flying off and going off to go and find lots of other interesting things and get nailed. So yes, accountability was the biggest thing for me. And also it meant that I could also recognize where I could actually be of service to the other person, because I was holding them accountable as well. So it becomes a very strong partnership of, yeah, but you said you were going to do that. And it's like, you know, so you learn about each other's levels of resistance to different things, and you know, and then you get creative, like, right, how do I persuade this person that they've got to get this done? So it's just been really good. It's been good fun, but it's also meant I've had more movement in growing my business since getting the accountability built in than I would have done if it had just been a case of, okay, you know, you can do it if you want to, you don't have to. Well, you know, we all know human nature is, if we don't have to do it, we probably won't. Whereas when you have an accountability partner that's saying, yeah, but I'm relying on you to get this done by such and such because you're helping me with this, it's like, yeah, I have a commitment here. I've got to honor it.
I think one of the most interesting things I've watched with you, Lana, is that I can remember when I first met you, you were working almost like 24 hours a day, but never feeling you were achieving anything. And then through your participation in the Aspire program, you suddenly designed a job for you to do in your business that almost consolidated how many hours you chose to work and what kind of money you were then going to charge, and therefore what profit you're aiming for in your business. So that became far more measurable. I almost felt as though you moved from being like a whirling dervish into somebody who's far more in control of the business and the potential for profit going forward. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, I'm the first to put my hand up and say I do suffer from shiny object syndrome. So the moment something new is coming out across anything, it's like, oh, I've got to go and learn that. And the difficulty with that is I learn loads, and I've got loads and loads of knowledge and experience. The difficulty is I didn't actually apply it to my business because I learned everything but didn't consistently apply. So and I think, so what happened then is, yes, I had all this knowledge and I knew what to do. I knew how to build a website. You know, I knew how to, you know, connect things up to get e-commerce going. I knew how to create programs. I knew how to get to an online platform. But because I wasn't consistently taking it chunk by chunk and working through it, what was happening was I was spending an awful lot of time doing an awful lot of really exciting work, but no fruition in terms of actually bringing the money in a consistent way. And I'm recognizing that actually, ironically, I was burning myself out in my own business. And it's like, yeah, but I get to, I'm supposed to be the person that gets to choose how to do my business and what it looks like and how many hours. So I think pulling back to looking at, well, okay, how many hours do I want to work? How do I want to, what do I want that to look like? What proportion of that time is on coaching? What proportion of that time is on holistic therapies? What proportion of that time is on the admin? What proportion is on marketing? And all of a sudden, coming to a realization that I was putting in a huge number of hours, but in the wrong direction, on the wrong things. And so that really pulled me back to sitting down and thinking, right, what are the right things I need to be doing for the scale of my business at this moment in time, and how much time do I want to spend on it? And the one thing that I was completely adamant about in the business, I didn't want to go back to full time. Part of that was a fear of, you know, overwork, stress, burnout, all that kind of stuff, which I had experience of many, many moons ago. But also my lifestyle is such that I wanted to spend more time with my, you know, my partner and my son. And, you know, we have rescue dogs, 4 of them, which I also like going out, spending lots of time wandering around in the woods, you know, looking like the dog lady. But, you know, that's my bag. That's what I enjoy doing. I love being around in nature. So I didn't want to have a job where I was spending, ironically, 60, 70, 80 hours a week working and tinkering on and feeling exhausted. And yet that's actually what was happening, because I hadn't sorted out exactly how many hours, what my job description was, what that looked like, and what I was responsible for. So again, pulling everything back to just a very basic, simple job description as to my role within my business just really pulled everything back to a place of, okay, so if I'm working this amount of hours, I make sure I'm working that. Because the other thing that I noticed, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's a general thing for women working from home, is, let's be really honest, you know, there's washing to do, there's dishes to get washed and put away afterwards, you know, there's piles of ironing that are stuck on the dining room table. Well, that might just be me. But what I was finding was, you know, I do a little bit of work and then I'd be, oh yeah, I just go and put another load of washing out on the washing line, which is great. My washing line was perfect. You know, my laundry was done, you know, really weak. It's not done now, but it was done on a week by week basis. It was great. But my business was suffering because I wasn't saying these are my hours of work. So getting my job description for my job in my business was, right, you were working from this hour to this hour. You will not deviate to the kitchen other than get yourself a drink. You will not deviate. You will not put washing in the washing machine. You will not transfer it to the dryer if it's raining. You will go back and you will work until this time. And then you can do that. And that's been massive.
Oh, that's so funny. You've also benefited a lot by the almost like the endorsement of the Institute of Leadership and Management, because I know you've gone online and done some of their sort of self-reflection questionnaires and some leadership profiling tooling you've had a look at, and actually collected certificates that you can now use as almost like qualifications on your email bar. So it's really lovely to think, you know, oh, I can jump online and pick up a qualification this afternoon and stick it even on my email bar to show it.
Shush, on your beds. Go on. Let me just shut a window. You might have to repeat that question. Right, on your bed. You were all doing so well. Go on, sit down. Right. Question again.
1, 2, 3. Talking about how much you've used the Institute of Leadership and Management endorsement and your membership, because now you've almost been through Aspire, you've got qualifications after your name. You can use all the resources part of the Institute and use that, all the work that you've done if you went forward and did other qualifications. But I know you've gone online and done almost like some work with regards to understanding what your leadership profile is and picking up qualifications in the odd afternoon that you can then use their little email badges as part of your email header and, you know, bottomer. So can you tell us a little bit about that? How did the belonging to the Institute help you?
That was really, it was a nice addition. As you can see, I do have rescue dogs because they like to get, you know, join in on the interview. Yeah, so I did, that was a really nice addition to Aspire. Knowing that there was an endorsement there from the Institute of Leadership and Management, and I'll be completely honest, before Aspire, I didn't even know it existed because it wasn't originally part of what my previous professional background had been. So when that kind of came into being and then looked at what they had available on their website, it was actually really, really good because there's lots of resources on there that help. So for example, if I'm looking to scale up my business and at some point in the future I want to, you know, have people working with me as a team, then being able to do things like the leadership questionnaire was really helpful because although I'd been in a management position before, you know, when you've come out of that and you're a number of years working within your own business and you're trundling along on your own little groove. Sorry, Cheryl. Belle's decided that she just wants to growl at everybody. I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shut this curtain. On your bed. No, come on. I'm recording, so bugger off. Off you get. There we go. All quiet. On your bed. Bye. Oh dear. Right. Shall we start that one again?
Leadership profile. So the program Aspire is endorsed by the Institute of Leadership and Management, and I know you've jumped online and in afternoons have picked up certain qualifications. I know that you've been into their resource library, and I love the Edge magazine to introduce sort of best practice and all that kind of stuff. So I think when you're running your business by yourself, you almost lose touch with, you know, who else is doing great stuff out there. So what great stuff have you discovered?
Well, for me, I mean, ironically, I didn't actually know about the Institute of Leadership and Management before I came on the Aspire program because my previous professional background wasn't in connection to business. So that was a really nice addition to Aspire. So of course, you know what I'm like, I tootle off to go and find out if there's lots of new exciting things I can go learn about, which there are, which was really good fun. So yeah, so I did the the leadership styles questionnaire, and there's lots of different aspects on there about ethics and, you know, standards and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, becomes quite intriguing because it then gets you thinking about, okay, have I got those in my business and where do they show up and all the rest of it. But the really nice thing about that is you're acquiring learning as you're going on. So, you know, you get your little badge to say, oh, you've learned this bit and you're accomplished now in this. Which, so yeah, I'm going around collecting badges, ILM badges at the moment, or Institute of Leadership and Management badges. But I think what's really nice about that as well is often when you're working in your own business on your own, you don't necessarily have a professional body always. There are many professional bodies, but you don't necessarily have one because you're self-employed. You might be connected to your profession, Federation of Holistic Therapists, social work, Care Council for Wales, whatever it is that you do. But I think, when you're working on your own, in your own space, quite often feeling quite isolated at times, to know that you can access and tap into that sort of wealth of information and knowledge around your business and learning within your business. So for me, when I'm at that place of scaling up and actually having a team of people working with me, I've got a great resource I can go straight to get some insight, more knowledge, more understanding of how I can, create a great team to work with me. Because all of that information's already sitting up there. They do webinars. They've got the Edge magazine. There's all sorts of various resources that you can dip in and out of as part of the membership, which has actually proved to be really, really helpful. So it's an added bonus to have, found that through the Aspire program. And also, there's a sense of sort of security, I guess, really around the fact that the program has been endorsed by the Institute of Leadership and Management. So you kind of know you're in a safe pair of hands as well. And it's been recognised for, the volume and the quality of the work that's gone into the program.
I love it as well that it's at level 5, so you can quickly jump from being a student member into a full member of the Institute, normally only held for those people with, master's level qualifications. And to know you're there amongst, people who are heading up Godiva Chocolate and some of the top UK and international companies you're rubbing shoulders with. You might even find you're online in the same sort of Zoom call as them. And learning what their challenges are and how they've overcome them. I think that's really super powerful. But the last question, Lana, why do you think a woman in business who's starting up or scaling up should come and do Aspire?
Oh, quite a few reasons, I guess. So I think the first is it's a really great check-in to look at where your business is really at. I think sometimes when you're working on your own as self-employed, I wouldn't say it's easy to delude yourself, but it's easy to ignore where your business might not be working terribly well, or you've come to a plateau and you're not quite sure where you're needing to get to sort of scale up. So what the Aspire program enables you to do is really take a breath and actually look at your business from the outside in, because we're often in our businesses all the time and we don't get the opportunity to step out of them and reflect and really look at how is it working. And actually, going back to a very fundamental question, do I want to be in this business? Is this the right business for me? Or am I better off being in employment? There's no shame in any of that. You have to carve your own path. But what it enables you to do is to take that breath and reflect and say, is this working for me? Do I want it this way? Do I want to just, have an often easier life and go back to the safe world of employment and not have to worry about all these bits? Or do I want to create something that wraps around me and enables me to serve the people that I want to serve in a way that it makes them happy, makes me happy, and helps my business grow and thrive. So that's one aspect. The second aspect for me is actually meeting other business women, because, let's be really honest again. You can go to all sorts of network meetings and you come across all sorts of amazing women and they sound absolutely amazing. And we're all very good at putting on the marketing mask and saying, yeah, we're doing great and everything's working rosy, when actually inside we might be thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know whether I can pay the bills next month, or oh my goodness, I can't work out how do I scale up, or I've got 101 issues going on that I've got nobody that I can really go to as a sounding board to get some support and advice from. So having 7 other women in the room with you, where actually when you find out that they're also having their own obstacles and things that are causing perhaps difficulties in the business that they're operating, as well as the successes, because you can celebrate the successes with them, but also knowing that everything on the surface may look beautiful, but actually there's a hell of a lot of racing around behind the scenes to try and keep all the plates spinning perfectly. Having that opportunity to talk to other women and empathize and know that they're empathizing with you makes you feel like you're not alone when things start going a bit awry. And they do, because that's the nature of the business. You know, you can have a fabulous, you know, day, week, month, 3 months, 6 months, then all of a sudden something happens and boom, you know, you've got a lot of firefighting to do. You know, and I think that's part of the excitement as well as part of the so the women are great in the group. The accountability just keeps you going on track and pulls you back when you want to sort of fly off and do something else. And I think that the thing that's unique about the Aspire program is most business programs are focused on the business, on cash flow forecasts, on, you know, where to put your adverts, on, you know, how to, you know, make sure your product's robust, and that's important. But being able to actually look at how your self-limiting beliefs and your sabotages are actually hindering your business growth is quite unique to a program. So being able to look at, for me, actually getting over the fear of numbers has now led me into being able to quite comfortably sit there. I mean, I have a money date with myself once a month now, which I never had before because it was like, it was too scary. Whereas now I'm just there, let's get all the paperwork out. Where's all my receipts? How much have I spent? How much have I got coming in? What have I got to invest in? Where's my marketing budget? You know, if you look at me now compared to what you saw 18 months ago, it's like, this is a completely different woman. You know, this is somebody, you know, whereas before I'd be like, oh my God, it's numbers and how much money have I got? And I'm going on instinct here and I'm flying on a wing and a prayer. Whereas now I know exactly what my numbers are and it's a hell of a lot less stressful, believe me, so much. So I'm actually getting to enjoy having a money date with myself every month. And I've even extended it that now as a family, we have a money date once a month, you know, with our respective incomes coming in. It's like, okay, so what have we got to do? How much have we got coming in? What have we got left over? What do we want to invest in? What do we need to pay off? And do you know what? It's just been a massive, massive release of holding. I hadn't realized how much stress I was holding around it. And I've been holding that since I was about 7. So, you know, when I'm 51 now, it's a bit scary. It's way too long to be holding those limiting beliefs. So the Aspire program does help with, you know, some people might think, well, why has childhood development got anything to do with business? And I certainly was one of those people when I first came on thinking, I'm not quite sure how this is going to match. But what it does enable you to do is recognize where the self-sabotage has been coming from. And even if it's just a simple acknowledgement that, okay, that happened, I can't go back and change it, but I can accept it. And now that enables me to open the pathway to using this tool in a way that I haven't done before. And that's massively shifted I've fallen back in love with my business because I'm no longer in a feast and famine model. I've become more creative in my business because I've really focused and niched down to the group of women that I work with and the products that I'm happy to offer and deliver. So I'm not running around like a headless chicken trying to be everything to everyone. It's freed up my time because now I know exactly how many hours I work on my business. And when I work on my business, I'm in them fully and not waiting for the washing machine cycle to finish. And it's just given me a structure that has worked for me. And I think not only that, but I've seen it in the other women that have come through the program. So, you know, I've seen how they've applied aspects from the 8 masterclasses that build up the program. and I've seen how, where there've been obstacles for them in particular aspects of that, I've seen them being able to apply it, and that's worked for them, and it's moved forward. So it's and that's why I keep coming back, because for me it's refining and refining and refining. So, and finally, and it's, you know, it's only taken you 7 cycles, but finally I've got a bloody business plan. Which I've been resisting since the first time I, you know, jumped on Aspire.
And an online program that makes
And an online program that actually makes money, and not only makes money, but has a very clear sequence, has a fabulous customer journey experience, you know, has a, you know, and I know exactly how many I need to sell, and exactly how many, you know, and exactly the audience I would like to offer this service to. And finally, all the dots have been joined up.
Oh, thank you so much, Lana, for sharing your experience with us today. And I look forward to working with you soon again. Let's make even more magic happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lana. Thank you.